Hello everyone, this is Jasmina, and in this video I'm going to talk about the special formations, and I'm actually going to give you a list in detail of all the houses, all the 16 different facing directions, and all the periods, what special formations they have. And these are not all of the special formations, but these are the most important ones. Now, all houses with a definitive facing direction have at least one good permanent special formation, and they may have more than one. And some of them also have annual formations. And we're talking about the Flying Star chart here. They have the right Flying Star chart for the formation. Now, when I say definitive facing direction, I want you to be not too close to the dividing line between two facing directions that have different charts. So we have the 8 directions, the 4 cardinal and the 4 ordinal directions, and then we subdivide them into 3. Between 1 and 2, there is a difference in the chart. Between 2 and 3, they're the same chart, but between 3 of one direction, let's say southeast, the southeast 3 and the south 1, they're also very different. So you can't be too close. Now, if on satellite you are basically within a degree, maybe a degree and a half, depending on how clear the satellite is, I may ask you to get a better thing, which would be a surveyed map of your house. And these are usually available in most countries, not all countries, but many countries will have this in your local government's record somewhere. And it's not terribly hard to get, and it's not terribly expensive. Now, apartments and condos do have a Flying Star chart. That is, they have the same Flying Star chart as the entire building. And how much energy your apartment or condo will get will depend on how many apartments you have or how many units you have in the apartment or the condo. So if you have a small condo that has only 10 units, you get 10% of the energy. But if you have a large apartment complex where you have 100 apartments in that same building, they'll be different floors, of course, but then you only get 1% if there's 100 apartments. So it depends on how many apartments or condos that are there, how much energy you get. That is why when we look at apartments and condos, we look more at the purple, white, and the Chi-Man chart because they are different for different apartments. So you get 100% of that energy. Now, you may have the right chart, but it may not do you any good unless the chart is activated. And if it's not activated, it's basically just an average house, and you have to look at each sector and the numbers, the stars in each sector to decide whether or not it's a good sector or not. But if you can activate a special formation, you usually eliminate a lot of these problems. And that 4 of these special formations actually make all stars become timely for all periods, which is kind of like the key to having a really good house. As I said, all houses have at least one permanent special formation. Some actually have more than one. And many houses have one or more annual special formations. But not all. Some only have a permanent formation. Now, I have another video that is entitled Activating the Special Formation for All Houses, and at the end of this video, there will be a link you can click on to get to that video. This will tell you in much more detail how you would actually activate whatever special formation you may have. Now, at present, which is 2023, there are very few period 9 houses and even very few period 1 through 4 houses because this is like 161 years old. It could even be 181 years old, a house of period 9. And these are also quite old. Now, even if your house was built in this period, you have to know enough history of your house to know whether or not the period has been changed. And the period will change relatively easily if you have the roof replaced where the entire living area at one point in time, even if it's only 10 minutes, was open to the sky. And usually when they replace a roof, they replace everything, including the garage, if it's attached, that kind of thing. But if you happen to find you have a special formation and you can activate it, and you need your roof replaced, you have to be a pain in the butt to the builders or the roofers, and you have to tell them they can only replace half the roof, and then they have to put at least the decking down before they remove the other half, because then you don't have this condition. And you probably have to have someone there to watch it, because otherwise they'll do what they want to do. So this is important, that you don't have this accidentally happen if you have a good activated form. Also, you want to be careful about having the house unoccupied for 100 days or more. So if for some reason you are going to be out of the house, maybe you're working overseas or whatever, you want to rent the house out or at least have a relative live there so that you don't break that pattern. Now, we did this in the past and it was actually okay. We actually improved the house by doing that. But that was a little bit deliberate. We were hoping it would work, and it did. Now, there's another way to change the period of your house, and that is if you put on an addition that is more than 1/3 the original area of the house. So even if your house was built way back here, one of these things probably has happened. And so the period of the house has changed. And if you really don't know this, it gets a little bit sticky, and you may need to change the period of your house so you know exactly what period you have. Most houses are built period 5 or later that are still in existence, but they could have had changes in period 2, and so it is a little difficult. Sometimes you have to just change it to the current period so you know what period it is. And the easiest one is this one: be out of the house for 100 consecutive days. So just rent an apartment for 3 months and don't go back to the house. You can check through the windows if you want to make sure that everything is still okay. But yeah, just don't go inside the house. Now, just to be clear, what a period 9 house will be if a house is built and moved into on or after February 4th of next year, just up to February 4th of 2044, which is still 21 years away. These will be period 9 houses for certain. But you can change any period house to a period 9 by doing this, being out. But you have to do that after February 4th. If you do it now, it'll be a period 8 house, which is still okay. Now, all period 9 houses, interestingly, have the right Flying Star chart to be a 7-star robbery house. But half of those houses are more difficult to activate because of the way they are arranged. But there are places that will allow this. So it has the right external landforms, basically. Now, for this 7-star robbery, there are 2 basic forms, and I need to talk about them here so that you can understand what the charts are like. There's one that I call a facing form. It's typically easier to activate. That's because most houses face the road in which they access the property. And so your front door, your door that people deliver stuff to, that's also on the front side or on the road side. And so if you have double stars in your facing sector, this is pretty easy to activate. There's also a sitting form, and that's where the double stars are in the back of the house, or in the sitting sector, I should say. And to activate that, one of the requirements is you have to have your main door where that double star is. And so that gets a little bit more difficult, but it can happen. If you have a road on one side of your house and a lake, perhaps a golf course, or some wide open space that is attractive to look at, and you don't want houses there, maybe a few scattered, but they're far away, that's okay. You can then would be able to activate this form. But this is relatively rare, and you pretty much are in the countryside. A few places are lucky enough in the city to have a lake, but that's pretty rare. There's also a problem with timing. The 7-star robbery has a rule that whatever your double star is, it has to already be timely during the period in which you activate the form. And because of the way timely stars work, it becomes a real problem unless you activated the formation in the period in which the house was built. So let's take a period 7 house. It will have double stars of 7, and the double star is always the period star of the house. You could activate it in period 6 or 5, but the house isn't built yet, so you couldn't activate it if you had it built, like 30, 40 years ago. And you would have to wait until the next period 5 rolls around before you could activate it again. And that's 120 years away. And so you're not likely to be here. So in practically speaking, except for a period 8 house, you have to activate this form in the period in which the house was built. Now, the only time that a period 8 house cannot be activated is in period 9. Otherwise, it's good. And 8 is a very special number in Feng Shui. Now, there are annual forms, and they are stronger if they're activated, but they do have some effect even if they're not. But if at all possible, you want to activate them. I do not talk in this video about any potential hidden or inverse sirens in any particular house. But the important thing, there's a couple important things to remember. First off, if you don't have Shachi, or if you can block Shachi, you don't have to worry about sirens. They won't affect you. And I do have a video about them. It's not too hard to check, but not all practitioners care about them because they act in a way that's a bit weird compared to the rest of Feng Shui. So I think that they legitimately ignore them. Now you're going to see a lot of charts that at least have this row on top, and there'll be another column with the period. But I wanted to kind of give you an overview. From the 7-star robbery all the way back to the left, all stars will become timely for all periods if it is the permanent form. So 7-star robbery, permanent parent, permanent pearl, or permanent combo 10. For the on mountain, on water, or the up mountain, down water, what stars are timely will depend on the period we're living in. So that changes. Now, some houses will have one or more of these forms, but every single house will have exactly one of these. It'll either have a 7-star robbery, or an up mountain, on mountain, on water, or an up mountain, down water. And it can't have two. It'll be one of these. So you will have a permanent formation no matter what. The only one that has time limits is a 7-star robbery. The rest can be activated at any point in time. From the 7-star robbery to the left, this will affect the entire house, whereas the mountain and water ones will only affect the facing and sitting sectors. And the remaining sectors, you have to look at the stars to tell whether or not it's a good sector or not. Now, we have two forms of the combo 10, base facing and base sitting. Base facing is good for finances. Base sitting is good for health and relationships. Now, there are conditions. Few houses have a permanent, let's say, base sitting, and have occasionally, every 9 years, they'll have a base facing. That's a pretty good house. I would be very happy in a house like that, even though combo 10 isn't the strongest form, but it would be a very good house. Now, the nice thing about this is no external landforms are required to activate this. The only thing that's required is you have no missing sectors. And if you own the house, this is pretty easy to do. Now, the rest of these, the permanent pearl string to the right, these will affect both the finance and the health and relationships. And to activate any one of these forms, you have to have specific landforms in specific locations to be able to activate it. So this becomes more difficult. And the most difficult ones, of course, you have to have mountains in the right place because mountains have to be natural. And remember, in Feng Shui, mountains include hills and higher ground. Now, in general, missing sectors are okay here, so long as it's not the important sectors that are missing. And you will see this, and I will talk about this in the other video. So I'm going to start with South 1 and go around clockwise. Now, what we have here is the chart, and some of this is annual. And the way you understand this is that the center of the annual chart is the number given, and the nearest year is in parentheses. And this will repeat every 9 years. So the next one after this year will be 2031. And in this case, we have a condition where we have just one, that's the up mountain, down water, and that's period 5. Now, period 5 has no 7-star robberies. Doesn't matter what direction it is, it doesn't have a 7-star robbery. But the south is one that has a lot of potential. Some are sitting, some are facing. The sitting is harder than the facing in general. Now, when it comes to timing, we are still in period 8. So if you have a very old period 9 house and you know it's period 9, you can activate it. Same thing for period 1. And you can activate the current period 8 house. Now, this is a sitting form, so it's going to be one of the harder ones to do. And you probably are very close on not having enough time to do it, unless you have the right setup pretty much already inside your house. Next year, when we turn to period 9, we gain the ability to activate a period 2 house, but we lose the ability to activate the period 8 house. And in period 1, which is still 21 years away, we gain period 3, we lose period 9, but we regain period 8. So this pattern that I'm showing you applies to every single house because this has to do with, or every single facing direction, because this has to do with timing, which has nothing to do with the facing direction. So let's go on to South 2. Now this one is actually a bit better. You have a base facing, although not too many period 3 houses exist. But if you have a period 7 house, you've probably got a good house as long as you have no missing sectors. And if you own the house, build out that sector. It's worth it. You probably would have a difficult time activating the 7-star robbery. In fact, you cannot because of the timing. But you can activate this, and this would be good enough. If you have a period 8 house, you have a tiny bit of time to activate this. Otherwise, you're basically stuck with this until period 1, which is still doable. Period 9 house, again, has a hard time being activated unless you have the right external landforms. And so this is actually the best house here that is pretty common is a period 7 house. And you can actually build out that corner if you're missing any sectors at any point in time and you activate this. Remember, this doesn't have a timing associated with it. So this is the Southwest 1 house, and this is actually the current house we're living in, and we do plan to move somewhat soon, soon as we can get the new house built. But it has a base sitting, and we have a rectangular house on actually both levels. And so we meet the requirements. Now, this is interesting. When we moved into the house, we actually moved into the house in period 7. And I used a compass at the time, and it said the house was south 3 facing. And I don't think that Google Maps was in existence at the time. I'm not 100% sure, but I certainly didn't look at it. But during the early part of period 8, we left the country to work overseas for a year and a half, and the house was unoccupied for 7 months. So it changed its period, and we could feel it when we came back. And it was a better house. So sometimes it's good to change the period of your house. And we were not able to take advantage of this in period 7, even though it was built then, because we don't have the right setup inside the house. We don't have a door in the right place. Now the D means diagonal. This is the diagonal form of the 7-star robbery. So theoretically, if someone moves into our house with some significant modification, they could change it to a 7-star robbery house in period 9. And this is stronger than this, but this is still a good house. And I wouldn't change it if it were me staying here. A southwest 2 or 3 facing house actually has some interesting things. There is some permanent parent strings, and they also have the up mountain, down water formation for each one of these. And this is the way it is. This has a requirement of 3 mountains in specific locations. And this has a requirement of 1 mountain in a specific location. And in this case, it's in the front of the house. But you can activate either one of these. And if you actually have enough, you can activate both of these at once. There's nothing wrong with that. Now, interestingly, some houses will actually have 1 year with the base facing combo 10 and 1 year with the base sitting combo 10. They will never be the same year, but because of the way it works. And when you have a permanent one, it'll either be base facing or base sitting. You never get both at once. But this is just the way the Flying Star chart works. Now, I would say that now this house cannot be activated. This formation here cannot be activated. But if you wait till period 9 and you have the right setup, of course, this one is the difficult one again, you can activate it. Because if you could have activated it here, you'll be able to activate it here. If you have a set period 8 house, I would just leave it. I would not change it. And assuming you have a mountain in the right location. So there's that. Now here's the west. Now here we have 2 good permanent combo 10s, and there's possibility we have period 6 houses still around. It also has the on mountain, on water, and you can activate both of these at once. There's nothing wrong with that. It makes it a bit better house if you can. But at least you can activate this quite easily if you own the house and you just make sure you have no missing sectors. And if you do, just build it out and you've got it. That's why a lot of people love the combo 10 house, because it's pretty easy to get. Now this is for West 2-3. You no longer have a permanent combo 10, but you've got quite a few houses that have a possibility of at least years to have both a base facing and base sitting. If you have a period 8 house, you've got a very short time to activate it, but you can also activate it in period 1. It's not going to necessarily be a terrible house in the meantime. It will be about the same as you have now because it's kind of an average house. Uh, Unfortunately, this will be this hard form. So if you do try to change it to period 9, you have to have the right external landforms. And it's tougher, I do admit. Period 7 house and period 6 house, I would just keep what you have because it's going to be hard to change this in time. And this one is more difficult to get. The period 9 house is harder to get. So I would just keep period 6 and period 7 the way they are. This is Northwest 1 facing house. And again, we have, if you have a period 6 house, unless you already have activated it, you can't. But if you have the right landforms, you can in period 9. So that's only a little over, it's not even a year away. Period 8 house, you have a permanent pearl string. I would just keep that. I would not change it. Period 7, I would also keep it because this is easy unless you happen to have the right formation for this. And because there are also internal requirements in here, sometimes this is very hard to get. It is the most powerful one, but it's also the hardest to get, the 7-star robbery. Now, the Northwest 2-3 is actually quite a bit better in general. Certainly during period 9, if you change your house, you will have a base facing. That is a very nice thing to have. You will also have this potential, and you may be able to activate both, and that's fine. Not too many period 1 houses exist, but in period 1, if you have a good house and you're looking, or an okay house, and you decide to wait to period 1, definitely period 1. You won't be able to activate this too easily, but you got this, and this is really good. I actually prefer a base sitting because if you have your health and good relationships, and this will include relationships outside the house, you're going to make money. You know, if you work hard, you'll make money. So I wouldn't be too worried about this. The period 7, you have the permanent pearl string. I would keep that. It's a question of period 9 or period 6 houses. I would move that to a period 9 house. And then I wouldn't even worry about whether or not I can activate this because it's a much better house. In period 9, that is. So this one is a North 1 facing house. Now, the North 1 and the South 1 look quite a bit alike. The North 2 and the South 2 look a lot alike, but there's some flipping. These all flip, and so these years also tend to flip. But we still have period 5 is, I think, exactly the same. And that's just the way they are. If you have a period 8 house, I would say if you can change it to take advantage of the 7-star robbery, I would, but you've got very little time. But then again, you can also do it once we hit period 1. Period 9, you're going to have this problem that is it's the harder one to activate, but if you've got the right piece of land, you can do it. Period 7 house, if you can change it this year, it may be okay to a period 8 house and take advantage of it. But and period 6 is the same thing. But this is not the greatest house because there isn't a lot to work with. The North 2 and 3 are better houses because, especially if you're a period 7 house, I would just activate this. You cannot activate this, so don't worry about it. Just keep this. Period 8, if you can activate this the remaining year, you can. But you could also wait into period 9, and it's typically easier to activate. So you kind of make a decision here. Now, Northeast 1, a period 8 house is pretty darn good. And if you have a period 6 house, I would also keep it because you have a permanent parent string, and you also have the up mountain down water formation too. So you can activate either one. If you can activate this, it's better, but you have to have the right stars, the right mountains in the right places. Otherwise, you could change it to a period 9, but again, this is a hard one. It has to be that road on one side, lake on the other type of thing. So it's harder to activate. But a period 8 house, I'd keep it. I wouldn't change it. But you have to have it activated, that it cannot have any missing sectors. This is Northeast 2-3. It has a little better for being able to activate, or at least a better chance of having in period 9 activating the 7-star robbery. But otherwise, it's not a particularly great house, except for period 8, where you have the permanent parent string. Period 5 also has this, so does period 2, but these two houses, there aren't a lot of those still around because something is usually happened to change the periods. This is East 1 facing. A period 6 house is pretty good. Maybe you've got a period 4 house still around. This is also quite good. You've got the same problem here where you have to, if you're going to do it, you'd have to do it this year, but at least it's in an easier form. In period 9, you have to have like the road on one side, a lake on the other, but they do exist, so it's possible. Period 7 house, I would, as long as you can activate this, I would just leave it. Unless you are able to activate the sitting form of the 7-star robbery in period 9. So this is East 2-3 facing house, and this is ultimately the house we will move into, period 9, with the facing 7-star robbery formation, and we designed the house to activate this, and we have the right landforms, so we're good. We're unlikely to be able to move in this period, which is unfortunate because I just don't think we can build it in time because it's still in the design stage. So, but it has an annual pearl string only a short time after, so this should be good for us. If you're in a period 5, 6, or 7, I would say keep your house, because as long as you have these activated, you're good. And you can activate these at any point in time. A period 8 house is tougher because it's in the sitting, and many houses cannot activate this because they don't have the right arrangement, don't have the right external landforms, basically. This is Southeast 1. If you have a period 5 or period 8 house, I would keep it because you've got the pearl string. You also have the up mountain down water, and I would just keep it. But if you have a period 6 or 7 house, or even a period 5 house, it's probably worth it to change to a period 9 house, because you have the 7-star robbery, and that's stronger than any of these. And you've got 20 years to get this done, so it's not a bad idea. But of course, you have to wait until next year to do the change. So this is the last one, Southeast 2. Period 9 house is very good. So if you're going to have a new house and you are an East group person, this is a good house to have because you at least have this. Very easy to get as long as you have no missing sectors. If you happen to have a road on one side, a lake on the other, you can also activate this, and it would be a really fantastic house. If you have a period 7 house, I would leave it because you've got the permanent pearl string, and you also have the up mountain down water. These two are easier to activate, so either one is good. It depends on where your mountain is. If you have a period 8 house and you do have this, you can keep it, but I think this is in period 9 a better house. So you may want to change your house to a period 9. You will lose this, but you at least gain the potential for this, and you gain this, and this is the real key. You gain this, that's very good. So in summary, if you have a house with a definitive facing direction, you will either have a 7-star robbery or an on-mountain, on-water formation, or an up-mountain, down-water formation in the chart. So you have the potential to have a permanently good house. However, you must have those forms activated if you want the benefits. And And this video that will come up on like the next slide you'll be able to click on the video that talks about this. Now there are time and layout restrictions. That makes the 7-star robbery house the hardest one to activate, but it also makes it the most powerful. So that's basically it. I'd like to thank you for watching. Please feel free to contact me here if you have any questions, or visit my ad-free website. And if you click somewhere here on the left, there should be the video that will, or the link that will take you to the video that describes in detail how you activate these special formations. Thank you again for watching.